Hey everyone, just wanted to go over a few items from last week and move on to this week as well. Early or late, I guess, depending on when you view this. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone this week. I hope that you're able to find some time to get together with family or friends. I know that our celebrations are all going to be a bit muted due to COVID, but hopefully you'll find some time to gather either virtually or together if you're in a close unit or close together geographically, and have some time to give thanks for the good things that we have. It might seem pretty bad a lot of the time, but I think that we all have a lot of good things to give thanks for as well. So last week in week 4 we talked about policy legitimation. And that was probably the least of what we had talked about. We really focused a little more on insurers and lobbyists and those types of things last week. So hopefully it was informative, helpful to you, and I look forward to looking at your final project topics this week and getting a feel for what it is that you're looking to do for your final projects, and I'll give you some feedback there as well. So this week, week 5, we're going to be talking a little more about policy implementation. And we'll talk some about the ACA, but I've tried to kind of get us away from that so that we're not completely talking about that all of the time. But we do have some other types of healthcare reform legislation that are discussed in your case study. So that's your assignment for this week. And then also, hopefully you're working on your final project, which I'll get feedback to you this weekend, obviously. And then we have our discussion about policy that's in the process of approval. So good stuff for this week's as well. Did want to take a few minutes to go over, that's not the right, we'll delete that. It's not the right subheader there, but just wanted to go over a few of the questions from the quiz that folks had gotten wrong. So there was one question I tossed. There was a typo in it, and about half the class got it wrong because I think that they read it correctly or read it incorrectly. They saw what I forgot to put into the sentence, so they got it wrong because it was backwards from what should have been in there. Regardless, it was a typo. So I went through and I actually corrected the typo. So if you go in and look at it, you'll see it. So that when I copy the test to the next class, I won't have that typo in there anymore. But I did go through and manually give everyone credit for that did not get it given to them by the system. So everyone got credit for that question. It was about minorities and insurance in the uninsured population, etc. So you got credit for that one. So this next one, method of health insurance reimbursement, where a provider receives prepayment for a fixed amount of money per person, or typically called a member, specific time frame, such as per month, and agrees to provide all necessary care for that member. So that's called capitation. Physicians will receive a per member per month fee, and they will provide all the care needed for that patient during that time frame. So value, fee for service, those are definitely not part of it. HMOs sometimes use capitation, so that was a distractor there to kind of throw you off a little bit. But those that didn't get it right kind of chose one of the other three. There was no dominant other distractor that was chosen. But that type of insurance or that type of reimbursement to the provider is called capitation. It's that per member per month fee. Majority of uninsured people in the U.S. Our correct answer was working for low wages or for small employers. So again, the folks that got the question wrong kind of had a mix of these different ones. So the second answer there on Medicaid is not accurate, because if they're on Medicaid, they are insured and not uninsured. If they are working for large employers and have average wages, likely they are insured as well, because most large employers, actually almost all large employers, offer benefits to their employees, especially those that are making an average wage, so well above the poverty line, etc. And then at the bottom, without a job or a source of income, one would think that many uninsured would fall into that. And I think there probably are some, but the majority really work for low wages, so minimum wage typically, and typically not full-time, or they work for small employers who are beneath the threshold to have to offer benefits to their employees. So, and oftentimes for a small employer to offer benefits to their employee may be it may put them out of business. They may not be able to afford to offer benefits to their employees. So, so typically the majority of uninsured people in the U.S. are working for low wages or for small employers. If you are a person without a job or a source of income, as long as you're a U.S. citizen, you're eligible for Medicaid. So you would have, even if you have a part-time job that pays very little, you're likely eligible for Medicaid as long as you're in a state where most adults are eligible for Medicaid if they fit within the income guidelines. There are some states that have very little Medicaid for adults that are not pregnant women, part of a family, or obviously over the age of, if you're under the age of, I think, 21, you're still eligible for the children's based plans. But sometimes we have a kind of a group of people that are really left out because they don't have a condition that drives Medicaid. They would meet the criteria financially, but there is no program in some states for some people to get Medicaid access. So it's Medicaid overall is kind of a crazy system. But and it's state by state, everything is different. But in any case, for this case, the majority of uninsured people in the U.S. are either working for low wages or for small employers. When a patient is responsible for paying part of the cost of care, the patient is more likely to use that care, and that's false. And this is actually the moral hazard that we talked about previously. It's kind of the flip side of that. So when patients are responsible for paying part of the cost of care, they're actually less likely to use that care. When they have really great insurance, it doesn't require any copayment or coinsurance, or very little. Those patients are more likely to use care because they don't have to pay anything. It doesn't impact them financially. So, this particular question, if they're responsible for paying part of the cost of care, they are typically less likely to use that care, not more likely. In the United States, having healthcare insurance coverage blank equivalent to access to healthcare. So is it equivalent to access to healthcare, or is it not equivalent to access to healthcare? And it is not. Many people have health insurance and are unable to access physicians because they cannot reach them due to transportation issues. They can't find a provider in their area that accepts their health insurance. They don't, maybe even Medicaid patients sometimes. So maybe you're a Medicaid patient, and a lot of providers don't like to accept Medicaid patients simply because of the low reimbursement that Medicaid plans provide to payers or provide to their providers. So, so having health insurance does not mean that you have access to health care. You could be barred from access by transportation issues, by distance issues, by participation with the coverage type issues. You could not have access because you have a $4,000 deductible and you can't afford to pay that right now. So, so it's certainly, having health insurance coverage certainly does not mean that you have access to health care. And that's all I've got for this week. So, so we will look forward to our work throughout the week. I will be getting back. I'd like to get all of my stuff done by Wednesday evening so that I can enjoy. Unfortunately for me, it's just myself and my husband. My son is in New York with his hockey team, and he can't come to Florida, which is where I am. He can't come to Florida and then go back, and he would have to quarantine for 17 days or 14 days, etc. So, so it's a lonely Thanksgiving down here for the two of us, but hopefully you are able to, like I said, gather with some family or friends and enjoy yourself for your Thanksgiving this week. So I'm hoping I can get all my stuff done by Wednesday, so that I can spend a couple days away from the computer, which would be nice. So that's all I've got. If you have any questions, just please reach out and let me know. Thanks so much.